Hey everyone, we're in August, and Prime Gaming gave us a total of 7 games this time. And the actual theme here was kind of puzzle adventure games. So let's check out the games. So this will be a little different because a lot of the games are kind of related. So I'll kind of do like 3 groups of games this time because I thought it bundled well and worked better. So the first game we have up is Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis. This came out in June 1992, and then the version you kind of got was the talkie version. I saw that was called, that came out in 93. You're looking at a Metacritic score that was not available, but a lot of people praise this game as one of the top 10 point and click games from that era. $6 if you got it on Steam, and about 8 hours of gameplay. You're going to tell by the quality of this. This is in all its original glory of 320 by 200 resolution. So OBS had a fun time with this with me, so I apologize, but you do get the classic game. This isn't like a remake. And basically this is Indiana Jones in 1939 trying to stop this Nazi guy from getting all the resources from Atlantis to power what is known as a warfare weapon. This is a very old game with those controls, and you can tell by the bottom, this is one of those verb select ones from that time where you have to use this item or push this item or talk to, view. So you had to kind of select that. What was unique about this from the time, it introduced a fight mode, where here you can see me fighting the bouncer. The controls from what I found online with the numpad didn't seem to work as it intended to me. But overall, it was still kind of interesting to get this involvement. I did enjoy the humor of the game. Graphics are dated, so I don't really have much to say there. But the comedy, the writing, the voiceovers helped a lot, and I was actually enjoying it from the time being on that aspect. I did have a lot of difficulties, as I mentioned, with fighting and the controls, and I actually could not quit the game or figure out how to save. So when I stopped playing to take a break, I kind of was stuck until I just basically alt F4'd the game.
That's why they're looking for the power of Atlantis.
But then we had 2 more point and click games. Next up was The Secret Files of Tunguska. Apologize if I messed that up, which came out in September 2006 and was still seeing releases in 2018 on the Switch. This is kind of on a bunch of different platforms. Metacritic score is 66, $10, and about 9 hours of gameplay. And what was cool about this Prime Gaming was we had 3 point and click games, each from a decade. So you kind of saw the advancement of point and click through here. So here you see the loss of the verb system. You kind of have the intuitive controls of like when to use stuff, and this system was helpful, and they added the magnifying glass so you could see what you could click on. The biggest problem I always had from the 90s is you kind of just go click crazy until you find something to interact with. But this one kind of helps you with that. Basically, you play as Nina in this one, whose father is missing based off some research, and you got to figure out what's going on. This one introduced cutscenes. Again, you could tell it was a little dated in the awkwardness of this. But the graphics were a huge improvement from the Indiana Jones. But the story here was kind of okay. It wasn't the greatest dialogue. Interacting with characters seemed weird. And just didn't flow as well as that 90s version. But then we also skipped to 2015 with Lost Horizon 2, which got Metacritic of 58. $15 if you bought it on Steam today in about 6 hours. And this is a sequel to a game I never played, but it's 20 years in the future of that timeline, which they added a walkthrough guide. So once you get the tutorial buttons to show up to give you how to play the game a little bit, there's a walkthrough to tell you how to play the game, which if you play point and click games like me, I usually end up pulling up a walkthrough because I get tired of just clicking and trying to guess that I had to fill something with a random object. I just would have never thought of it. But this one kind of included it if you just wanted to play through that. This kind of did a hidden menu thing, so you could unlock or lock the bottom bar to do some interactions, and then the top bar was your inventory. but I didn't really read the tutorial too well. I didn't even realize I could go left and right to view things. So it took me a while to figure out that I had to scroll all the way to the top for the menu to drop down. So there's some clunkiness with the UI to me. They also included the like magnifying glass to find stuff, and they have interactive scenes. So here you see me on the bike, and I could kind of tap things to dodge stuff, and if you miss it, you had to start that whole section over. They also added this building mechanism, like I had to build a plank in order to walk across. The dialogue was okay on here. I was amazed how well the Indiana Jones one actually held up versus some of these. But the game did look a lot better. I kind of liked the overview going through the sewers. The puzzles were kind of there. I liked the expansion of that, and that was kind of cool. The cutscenes still seemed clunky here as well. But overall, for these 3 games, I would say not a download for me. And the main reason is it's just the point and click I felt like was a 90s, early 2000 PC gaming. Like, you had to be there to really enjoy these. And that's one reason I didn't like PC gaming back in the day there. It was a lot of these games. But if you want to download this, I think your pros here is the good evolution. I feel like you had a good selection of these adventure-style games where you travel the world. They're all point and click, and the Indiana Jones one is one of the top ones that a lot of people recommend to play. So if you're even looking into the history of video games, at least get that. It's relatively cheap on Steam anyways, but if you want to play some of the classics that people talk about. But this is like the pro here. If you like this genre, this is kind of a good 3 games to kind of grab. The con here, obviously what I talked about, is just the point and click is not something I really like. The stories of the last 2 games weren't too great. The Indiana Jones, like I said, did keep my interest, minus all the clunkiness of playing a game from the 90s. Like the last game, Lost Horizon was on mobile, and with the cutscenes and all, I think it actually would work better. So the con here might be the PC version might not be too great, but maybe check it out on mobile if you did have some interest. Alright, since we're out the point and click category now, next up we had Planet Alpha, which I did review back in November of 2019. This came out in September of 2018. Metacritic score is 76. And it's a platformer puzzle game, about $20. And this game I highly praised then about the graphics. Here's just part of where I left off from last time. And you can see some of the scenes I just recorded. But it looks really great. I love the graphics of this 2.5D world. The game doesn't really have a story. You're trying to figure out what happened. There's a bunch of stuff with the astronomy you're trying to figure out, and then robots are trying to kill you. So you're trying to figure out what's going on and what is happening in this planet. You have a lot of different sections of the planet. You go through like this insect hive, forest, these ruins. So it's kind of a wide variety. You kind of sneak across these robots. The only complaint I did have is the 2.5. It's hard to tell where they're looking sometimes. But I recommend this as a download. I know this was short because I already previously reviewed it, which you could check here. It's a very good-looking puzzle platformer that I enjoyed playing. It worked pretty smooth. The con here is there is no action. You're kind of playing and sneaking around. Next up, we have Metamorphosis. This came out in 2020. Looking at a Metacritic score of 69. The price is $25 and about 7 hours of gameplay in this puzzle first-person game. This is based off a book of the similar name, written by Kafka, which you get hints of with like quotes during the loading. But the only premise here is you start as a guy who turns into an insect. But that's when you diverge from the book, because the book is very different. Here, you're actually a small bug, and you're trying to help your friend who evidently is going to jail, and you're trying to stop that while trying to become human again. Overall, the graphics here were really cool. You felt like you were a bug. You got to see your 2 front legs. Everything was huge, so you were moving along, and the speed gameplay of it, you felt like you were moving like a bug. When you hit your sprint, you moved really fast and got the sense that you were really a bug, which I loved in this one. It was open world in a sense. You had these different segments. There was about 8 of them that you kind of worked in, these puzzles. And then they're open world because you have the objective, but there's multiple ways you could kind of solve things. You could kind of climb up. You had to jump in honey to be able to stick to a wall, do some platforming. So there's multiple ways to kind of get up, which allowed us some freedom. The only complaint I had was there was a weird glitch. When I died, I actually went back like an hour into the game to a checkpoint. I passed multiple checkpoints, but ended up starting there and like had to restart the whole game. I don't know if that was a common thing, but I hope not. I kind of died stupidly. I didn't record it, but that was the only glitch I had. But overall, I highly recommend this as a download. I thought this was a fun game to try out with a different perspective, and it was very fun to control a bug. The con here, again, you weren't really being attacked. You would die by going into zones, like you couldn't touch the floor at certain areas. Rollers would kill you, stuff like that, but you weren't fighting anything. Okay, the last 2 games that were up were actually the first and the second game of the thing, so these will be combined as well. First up would be A Normal Lost Phone, which came out in January 2017. Metacritic score is 71. You're looking at $3 on Steam and 2 hours of gameplay. I can't describe the genre here because it's like a mystery puzzle game. I don't even know. But the premise here is there's a guy named Sam that lost his phone, and you're trying to figure out what happened through his phone. So you're just digging through his text, emails, apps, unlocking passwords to figure out the story. This game was made in a game jam by one developer, which I always find cool. The problem with the game is you're just digging through a phone. It's a lot of reading. There's no like music or voiceovers. There's music, but there's no voiceovers. You just get phone sounds. So it's kind of just digging through a phone, which I didn't like too much. And then a sequel came out basically near the end of the same year, 2017, Another Lost Phone. And it's called Laura's Story. So you're digging through Laura's phone to figure out her past and what happened. You're looking at 2 hours gameplay in this one as well, and actually got the same rating and same price. You could tell they updated the phone and it was smoother gameplay. And again, like these topics were interesting to find out and kind of talked about real life. So I think there was power into the story. But my problem was it was hard to stay involved because it's just you're loaded. Like you open up text messages, it's like 30 people and it's just reading. Some of them are short, but it's just going through it and reading. And these are where I would say these 2 games were not for me as well. The pros here, it was cool that one developer did it. There was a lot of good work here. And it's a game jam. I, some reason, are always drawn to these. But these both came out as mobile, which I actually think would probably be a better fit. If you did find these interesting, please check out the mobile versions. That I think would be a lot more fun experience. The con here is it's a lot of reading, and it makes sense because you're digging through someone's phone, which I kind of felt weird doing. It felt like I was just being nosy in this person's life. I know it's a character, but I think that's why I didn't care about this as much. And then people don't set their passwords too great. Obviously, you're breaking in passwords, so it's not complicated. But it was interesting to see how the game did the passwords there. But being nosy was just a weird feeling for me. But that's all I have for this month. Not a highlight for me. Let me know if you actually like these games a lot. It'd be cool to see if this was something there. I am seeing that the Prime Gaming is adding a lot of point-and-click games. We have Monkey Island and then now Indiana Jones, which these are 2 big ones. So I'm curious if they're going to continue this trend and release more. Like I do like experiencing them. They're just not for me. But I would highly check out Metamorphosis. That was a interesting game that you get to play as a bug. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in September. Peace.